She's recording.
No, I mean Rick.
I don't know. Is he coming?
Yeah. And the first one is,
He'll be here.
I hope so. One more meeting. Okay. Let's give them a minute to go over the.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Good afternoon. This is the September 16th, 2019 meeting of the Architectural Advisory Committee. Please silence all cell phones and pagers. Our planning director is not here today. Flynn's at a conference, so Edward Robertson will be running the direction. Could we please have roll call?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the AAC. So we do have 3 members of the AAC that are out today. Member Tom Dotsey, member Sean Lockyer, and member Steve Poling are all out, previously asked. So I'm going to call the roll of those that are here. So I'll start with member John Walsh,
I am here.
member John McCoy,
Here.
vice chair Rotman,
Present.
and chair Tom Jackway.
Present.
So, Mr. Chair, we do have 4 members present, so we have a quorum to have this meeting.
May we have a staff report on the posting of the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The agenda was noticed on September 12, 2019, consistent with the requirements of the state law. So this today's meeting has been appropriately noticed.
Thank you. Does the committee have any revisions to the agenda? Seeing none, do we have a motion to accept the agenda?
Make a motion to accept the agenda.
Second.
John and John. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Since this is a public meeting, audience members are permitted to comment on any issue that's within this committee's purview. Comments on an item appearing on today's agenda are made at the time that that item is presented. If you want to speak on an item not on today's agenda, you may speak now. Each speaker would have 3 minutes. Seeing none, the minutes from the last meeting have not been completed, so we're not going to be reviewing or approving those minutes at this meeting. That'll be in our next meeting. So let's move to item number 1, unfinished business. the Boriston Company's leasee for a major architectural application to construct a 3,500 square foot medical office building, pad site for future building, and other related on and off-site improvements on a 3.76 acre site located at the northwest corner of North Sunrise Way and East Tockwitz Way. May we have a staff report?
Thank you, Chair. So this project was first reviewed by the AAC on September 3rd, and at that time, the AAC took a vote to deny the application, but you gave direction to the applicant. So I'm going to briefly go over some of the issues that the AAC had raised, and then turn it over to the applicant, who has provided us with revised drawings which were handed out to you today. We do have larger drawings. If you'd like to see them, we can put them up on the boards. And the applicant has a series of slides and blow-ups also that we'll have on the screens before you. So the AAC made a couple recommendations. One was that pedestrian circulation, there needed to be a pedestrian circulation connection, and let me go to a site plan here. That from Tockwitz Canyon Way into the actual center, building elevations generally had lacked rhyme and reason. There were some questions about the building materials and composition. There was a question about stone material, scale and overall height of the building, mechanical screening on the roof. There was questions about the elevations, the Sunrise Way elevation. You need additional treatment, articulation on the building, and you might consider using screening material, plant materials to soften the elevation. So let me go to some of these slides. There was a question about the internals, how the workings of the building were going to be. So there's an exhibit showing what the floor plan is inside, showing the different elements of the building. There were some questions about the roof. This is showing mechanical screening and where all the air conditioning equipment would be, and then the building elevations. There was a question about landscape materials, install palm trees according to section 14 plan, the location of a trash enclosure along that would be visible from Sunrise Way, the employee break area at the corner of Tockwitz and Alejo, and then lighting, use warm lighting and cool temperatures, and then the committee concurred with the staff recommendation on other elements of the building. So as I mentioned, the applicant is here to go over some of these changes. We have some 3D renderings that we'd like to go over, showing the different elements of the building, some designs of the interior with the discussion of the large glass facade that faces the parking lot. And then we have a landscape plan, there we go, a landscape plan that shows some plantings on the pad for the future development of the corner, and then additional landscaping along Tockwitz and within the interior of the lot. So with that, I'll turn it over, unless you have questions of me, of staff.
Does the committee have any questions of staff? Robert?
By any chance, do you have the submittal from their first submittal, the elevation, so we can maybe see how if there were changes, what they were?
I can get that.
Sorry, Glenn.
I can.
Thanks.
I'll run whenever he is up here talking, and I'll go get them.
I have a question, and I don't know if it's for engineering or for planning. There's 3 power poles that are running the length of the site that are not on the property line. They're about 10 feet in from the property line. Do you know, are they planning to underground those powers and remove the poles? Or are they going to be required to do that?
If they are indeed on the property, they will be required to underground those as part of their conditions, but I don't believe that they are. I think they're on the adjacent property.
As I look at it, you can see the stake of the property corner, and you can look on the other properties. It is in their parking lot.
Is it in their
Yeah.
parking lot? Yeah. It might be something that gets negotiated during, because they are a lessee of the property, so it
Right.
might be something that gets negotiated.
We can take your input in just a minute.
And I do know that Edison, there's been some talks with Edison about that entire reach. It goes from Alejo
Yeah,
all the way
that's-
down, about Edison abandoning it and relocating it on their own, and also whether or not they want it relocated. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to Edison deciding whether or not it's a good idea or not. It's only required to be undergrounded if it's under 35,000 kilovolts. If it's over 35,000, it remains in place. So that's part of the undergrounding requirement. So.
Interesting.
You could theoretically have 35,000 kilovolts on one set of lines, and then the upper set of lines be something higher. So it doesn't do any good to make them underground the bottom reach, because the end result is to try to get rid of the poles.
Right.
The poles are still there, there's no reason to do it, so.
And do you have any information about the bus stops and where they are, what's going to be required from Sunline?
Yes, so there's been a lot of talks with Sunline, and Sunline, so the applicant reached out to Sunline to find out is that location absolutely necessary? And is there a reason why it couldn't be moved to Sunrise? And the reason for it not being proposed on Sunrise is Sunline did not currently have a route on that portion of Sunrise. From Tockwitz South, they did, but not north of Tockwitz. And since then, they've decided that they're gonna put that route back in, and they have agreed to allow them to move the bus stop from Tockwitz to Sunrise. So you can see on that site plan there, oops, on that site plan there, right where the Sunrise Way label
Yep.
is, that's their entrance. And so the driveway will be moved in a little bit.
Right here?
Yeah, it'll almost look like an acceleration lane. It's gonna get pushed in a little bit, and the bus stop will end up being there instead.
So currently, there's a bus stop south of Tockwitz in front of the Rite Aid.
Correct.
Would that be eliminated?
No, because I believe it's on a different route. Yeah.
That's going to be confusing for people taking a bus to know
Right,
which
the-
bus stop
The
to
bus
stand
goes
at.
down Talkowitz and turns left and stops at Rite Aid. This one will come down Sunrise.
And I think turns on Tockwitz possibly. We're not exactly sure. But we did get a solid commitment from Sunline saying that, yes, that's where they want the stop. And
Great.
yes, they are going
So
to.
nothing on Tockwitz.
Nothing on Tockwitz.
Thank you, Rick. Any other questions of staff? Being none, I see the applicant is here. Would you like to give us a little review of all that you've done? And I'd like to say you did an amazing amount of work in 2 weeks, so it's nice to see you responded well to us.
Now it's on.
Yeah, thank you for accommodating. Thanks to the city and the planning department for coming at us in a quick schedule. We're under some deadlines. This is a county building, as you know, and they have a deadline because they sold their other building to get into this building. So we appreciate you expediting a review again. Let me talk to the electrical, what I know. They have been working with Edison, and the idea is to put it underground. I can't tell you how far that agreement is, but they have been working directly with Edison on that. It's not part, it probably is going to become part of a stipulation, a building department type stipulation anyway, so they knew that, and they've been working on that.
Okay, thank you.
So essentially, last time we were here, you made a few comments that I'm just going to go through the comments one by one. I gave you a letter with some somewhat elegant words done by my designer, so maybe I'll apologize a little bit with that. But essentially, what we try to do is rethink the way this building was working and show you a little bit more about what's happening on the interior, because as we talked before, this building is really an interior machine type building that becomes articulated on the outside. And there's a reason for everything happening on the outside as far as windows or non-windows and that sort of thing, and the entrance being to the back and that sort of thing. So we think we've done a better job of showing you what's going on. We've upgraded the landscaping a lot. Your first comment was pedestrian circulation, and that was the Tockwitz bus stop, which has gone away with the Sunrise bus stop. Now the path of travel will be directly along a public sidewalk and then into our building, around but into our building, and essentially splitting whatever happens on the pad there too. So it's a much better place for the bus stop. The way I'm understanding the route is they're going to come south on Sunrise and west on Tockwitz and turn that way. And that's a new, when we were talking to Sunline, they said, well, we're thinking about changing that anyway. So I said, let's change it now, or let's think it out. And they accommodated us. One thing further on in the comments, the city has asked us to come back to you with a bus stop actual design. We haven't got that at this time, and we will come back with the design once we put a design in per their stipulations. We've got it shown both on our site plan and on the civil site plan as far as the position of it, but it's not designed vertically yet. So that's the first comment. The second comment was building elevations generally. Essentially, we did another look at, if you could go to the renderings, I believe, that I gave you. We took a better look at the renderings, also did a little bit of just joints and that sort of thing that happens within the stucco that articulates the building a little bit better. This was pretty much an acceptable elevation as far as what I heard, other than maybe the stone that's on the front. And I do have another pallet of stone which I brought that we're considering rather than the one that we started to begin with. This is the south elevation where the WIC section is, which is a different public entity, a county agency that comes in that way rather than the medical center. On the east elevation, which was the main one that, well, the northeast, we can talk about that corner. Well, no, one more. This is there was some talk about this actually proceeding out into the landscape. We did enhance the landscape at that corner, along with some palm trees to mimic what's happening on Techwitz, because we needed to bring those down there. So we added some palm trees and some landscaping appropriate. This is not a public, it's not meant to be public, and there's a security thing. So we did not want to really open it up to letting them out of the area. It's a security thing. So we still do have the stone on this face and a glass barrier and some louvers that works with this. The actual element was lowered a little bit, and its presence is, it creates a nice civic presence as we're coming down south on that. This is the first thing you'll see in the building as you come down. And then if you go further down the building, what we've done is at the planning department's recommendation and your recommendation on the east elevation, I don't even know if it can show that. Is there one further down? I think there's one a little bit further down. Anyway, we took the protrusion out another foot, plus we put some eyebrows on it, and as far as an eyebrow on above the windows that are there. And sorry. So in general, we think that the materials are working a lot better with the way that it proceeds down the street. One thing I will talk about in one of your other comments was the mid-range of landscaping, and there were shrubs added to the palette to bring a mid-range in there and enhance the elevations in that way too. Doesn't want to pull up? Okay, then go back to the regular elevations. I believe that it's been enhanced there. Maybe I can talk to it there. Just the flat elevations without landscaping.
You have an elevation here that's labeled view of the southeast corner of the building, and that shows that, I think, what you're wanting to talk about.
Right. It's trying to come up right now. Essentially, the area that was pulled out 1 foot, we pulled it out 2 feet to the setback line, and then we also put 1 foot of eyebrow on there and some vertical fins also on the windows to enhance that fascia a little bit more. We've worked with the elevation in a rendering sense, and of course a building sense too, to show you joint lines and that sort of thing instead of the plain face that it looked like before. So we believe that the building is now responsive to a desert-type landscape that we were looking for to begin with, and a community building. So, let's see, comment number 3 is that elevation. No, no.
Can you talk about that one?
Well, this is the one that, this stone is going to be the stone,
Here's the board here.
yeah, no, this is the new, this is the new stone palette that we are thinking about. It's a little bit, sorry if I'm not being hurried. It's a little bit less plain and a little more rounded and more articulated as far as color. And we think it's going to go with the colors of the buildings a lot better. So rather than, all the materials on this board are still the same other than the stone. The stone I brought you actual samples of for your review.
Okay, let's go to another one.
And that stone occurs both at this main entry and underneath at the employee
Correct.
rest area.
Correct.
So I'm not seeing one on the east elevation.
Well, then, go to the actual presentation of the elevation presentation. Maybe I can talk to that. To your presentation you had before. No, flip to just elevations, right there. Whoop. I don't know if we can blow it up, but essentially, there. Yeah. What we've done is we've added vertical fins here and an eyebrow along here. Same thing with this. We've brought the windows back as much as we can within there so that they'll be sitting in the building. So essentially, we've articulated this face a lot better as it goes down there. And then, of course, with landscaping, it also works with the landscaping as it goes down there. So that's our change that we did at that point. Listening to you. The last, fourth comment was install palm trees along Taquits. We looked at, down the road at the Residence Inn, saw what was happening there. There is sidewalk, once again, give me that, and I'll talk to this. There's sidewalk, there's both sidewalk, palm trees and a few other palm trees that happen in here, and that's the same thing that happens at the Residence Inn. So you're gonna have a blank in between, but we got that. The fifth comment was the trash enclosure. I guess you can see it on the landscape plan. It's no longer at the, right out of the driveway. We moved it down a few steps. We talked to the trash people. Doesn't matter. I mean, they're just gonna pull the thing out and do it anyway. So that was a good comment, and we picked up on that one. Employee break area could be done more creatively, might expanding the area into the landscape area. I talked to that. From a security point of view, we don't want to actually expand it into there. We expanded the landscape at that area so you're visually looking into better landscape, but it's still enclosed as far as an employee break area because it is a private and a security type thing. Warm lighting temperatures, we talked about this before. We're going to use warm lighting temperatures, interiors and exterior where it's appropriate, shaded where it's appropriate, everything to the building department and building code type stipulations. So we will do that. Last thing, the pad, as you can see that, there was a comment about the pad being left in the interim, and we don't know how long the interim is. If they're lucky, maybe it all gets built at once. But we did add some DG and some plants in there so that it kind of all rolls back into there, into that thing. And I believe that we picked up on all your comments in this manner. And like I said, I appreciate and thank you for accommodating us as quickly as you have. And we hope that we get this on through, that we can work with the building department on things like the screening of the roof, which will be appropriate and hide everything, and that sort of stipulations that are going to be planning stipulations anyway.
Thank you. Do we have questions from the committee for the applicant?
Yeah, it's just kind of a general comment. It would help if I could see what we had at the last meeting and what we have at this meeting side by side, and to kind of go through your response that is detailed and see how it expressed. Because I'm hearing bits and pieces of it. It sounds like portions of it did reduce in height, perhaps, and there was some adding of some screens. It would be easier to kind of evaluate the delta difference between what we had and what we have here.
Member Walsh, would you like to see a printout of the elevations from the previous? Because if you take 2 minutes, I can do that.
Yeah, I think I'm personally a little bit lost without it to see what.
Right.
Let's take a brief recess and take the time that you need to locate those.
Do you want to see landscaping also, or is it just the elevations?
To me, the key was the elevations, but the other members may feel differently.
That's very easy to
I think
do.
elevations.
Mr. Chair, before the recess, you want to see if there is any member of the public who has any comments on this?
Sure. We'll continue with our questions in a minute, but in the meantime, are there any members of the public who have comments on this particular item? Nope.
You have to have your vote lines. You don't have to have your vote lines.
I'm not getting these pins that he's talking about coming out there in the white area. He says that this is coming up 2 feet, then that there's an overhang.
We're missing there.
You think there's just behind the window? So this these for us. Let's continue with questions from the committee for the applicant. Robert?
Hi. Thanks. I think your explanation is great. What I have seen is a big improvement. I had a couple of quick questions, though, and more for my own edification. Your roof is at 15 feet, and if I recall, when you were here last, you said your ceiling height is inside is at 9. So you've got 6 feet of space. How is that utilized?
It's mechanical and structural. There's joists, of course, and structural joists and mechanical. There are some places that are 10 feet ceilings, but generally it's 9 feet. But there's some spaces that within the area. If you can go back to the floor plan, I can show you a little bit more about what's happening with ceiling heights. No, that one, please. Essentially, within these pods, there would be 10 foot in the office area. Let me point it out to
You can call it out by color if you want.
yeah, well, with it, these are the exam room pods, and this area would be this, and these are 9 feet. So essentially, it goes up in this area, goes up here. So
Okay.
there is a little bit of height variation. Then this is the taller ceiling area, of course, that you're
Right.
seeing in the renderings. Like I said, essentially, as much manipulation of windows as we could along here, but essentially it's a machine that works for examining and medical more than it does to try to get people looking out. It's an internal. You're not looking anywhere when you're doing exams. So that's how the ceiling heights work. There's a 15-foot roof here, 3-foot parapet. This one, I think, comes up a foot above, the parapet comes up a foot above the other parapet for that area.
So the difference between what you originally submitted and this submittal, there is no real change in the parapet or roof heights?
No, I think we were just defining what it was, because there was a question as to what it was.
Okay. And do you know what size reglet you're going to use on the stucco? Have you decided that?
No, but I would, something that's very definitive, but probably a 1/2 inch.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
John Walsh, any questions?
I don't think so. I think that the difference between what we had before and what we have here now is kind of self-evident. It's an impact of a rendering process too. I think it just looks better. You know, when we first got the information in last week's packet, I mean, the isometrics are easy to understand from a functional standpoint and basic building proportion, but it does not necessarily do it justice in terms of the scale and the overall feeling that you're going to have when you look at this building. So in the expansion joints, the control joints for the stucco that I'm seeing, really that is the biggest impact, I think. And the fact that it just breaks the scale down a bit. Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. John McCoy, any questions?
I concur with the statements that have been made about the buildings. Landscape plan, looking through it, looks good. It's extremely small scale. It's difficult to read at the last minute, but the only place that I have a little bit of concern is off of the patio area. You've got a lot of low deer grass, yucca, and agave. I'm sorry, agave and aloe, and that's very Spartan palette. They go well together, but you might want to soften that a bit for that corner. You do have the rock, which is nice as a backdrop, but consider what the uses are. Do you want to give them privacy, looking out directly to the traffic while they're sitting there having their lunch and things? Would be my only thought on that. And I think it looks good. Thanks.
I don't have any more questions of the applicant. Is there any rebuttal or anything further you want to say to us?
No, just thank you for accommodating us, and we hope we can get this through.
Okay.
I think it'll be an addition to this city as well as the county, as far as their usefulness, and they're excited to get it going in a couple ways, and they need it.
Thank you. When we started with your discussion, you didn't give us your name, so can we have that for the record?
My name's David Smith. I'm with West Group Designs out of Irvine, California.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, committee, what are our discussion or comments? John?
Overall, I think the success of the project, and I said it last time, was I think it's an excellent site plan. I think it's functionally, it hits the mark, and it's obvious that it has been deeply programmed and figured out. Nothing in it is accidental. I think we could kind of nitpick elevations as a bunch of architects for a lot of time. But I think it hits the mark and isn't necessarily what everybody would eventually agree upon. But I think that the difference between what it was elevationally before and what it is now is an improvement. And I think you've certainly done the yeoman's work in terms of homework, dealing with Sunline and all, and getting the bus stop. And the real functional deliverability of the building seems to be there. So I would support passage of it.
Okay. Robert?
I'm in agreement with John Walsh, so I don't have anything else to add.
I'm in agreement.
My one comment, well, first of all, thank you very much for listening to our comments last time. I'm still stuck on the stone, and especially when I see the name of the stone, it's called Rustic Lodge. It looks to me like it should be on a mountain lodge, so I'm not going to not approve it because of that, but I would ask you to please consider again something that might be a little more contemporary, that's not necessarily a craggy space and odd shapes. But that's up to you. That's just my comment.
Can I comment back?
Sure.
Maybe we heard wrong the first time. What we were trying for was something a little bit sharper lines and contemporary, a little bit too white. So we came back with something more rustic, because that's what I thought I heard, or we thought we heard. So there might be a little bit of confusion here. There's a lot of stone that can be picked and that sort of thing. My suggestion is that, and this is a last minute thing that's going to happen, is we're going to have to review have to design the bus shelter too. As you know, the bus shelter on at Eisenhower has a stone column on it, and it's fairly simple. And we've thought that direction too, that probably adding some stone to the bus stop. So when that comes up, maybe we can come back with another selection and show you stone again.
Great, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask for a quick 5 minutes break so that we can call Noriko, who's going to be presenting the next project to you.
Okay. We'll take a
Call Noriko, staff, so for staff change. It's only the three of us today, so.
We'll take a 5-minute recess. Okay. Okay, we're going to proceed now to new business. Item number 2 on the agenda, request by David Navarro of Conserve Landscape on behalf of Sunrise East Homeowners Association, Inc. for minor architectural review and approval for the conversion of 20,000 square feet of turf to desert landscape at the Sunrise East condominium complex located at 2251 East Mesquite Avenue. May we have a staff report, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon. As introduced, this is a proposed turf conversion at the Sunrise East Homeowners Association complex. The property is located at the corner of East Mesquite Avenue and South Cerritos Drive, and the applicant is proposing to convert 20,000 square feet of turf, which is located on the East Mesquite Avenue frontage. And these are the images of the existing conditions. The picture to the left is the view to the east, and the photos on the right side are showing the near the intersection of a Mesquite and Cerritos. And again, this is a view to the east, and this is a view of the street across the Mesquite Avenue to just show what it looks like right now. The applicant is proposing a plant palette that includes various types of materials, as you can see here. And it's really hard to see, but just for clarification, the corner cutback area that's shown on this site plan is actually incorrect. The corner cutback area is typically measured at the intersecting point of the property lines. This 30-foot distance is actually shown from the corner of the street. So actually the 30-foot corner cutback area will be measured a little bit inwards in the planting area. Just for clarification, so this actually gray line is a property line right here. Yes. So the 30-foot measurement should be starting from somewhere around here, 30 feet. So there is a proposed mimosa and then also Mediterranean farm farms located in the area. And the applicant is proposing similar planting patterns throughout the site. This is a continuation on the East Mesquite Avenue frontage. And this is a proposed planting near the entrance to the complex. And the east side of the entryway. And continue to the east end of the complex. Based on the submitted proposal, staff finds that the proposed mimosa and the Mediterranean farm farms are located in the corner cutback area. And then also, the project proposes a very limited amount of trees, and staff is concerned about the shade for the pedestrian pathway and then also streetscape consistency. As you may recall, across the street is actually landscaped with a row of olive trees, and staff finds these might be potential issues. And considering these findings, staff recommends Architecture Advisory Committee to approve the project subject to the 2 conditions. And this this concludes the staff presentation. Applicant is here in the audience, and if you have any questions, let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Noriko. Does the committee have any questions of staff? Robert?
Hi, Noriko. What is, at the corner where you're concerned about the cutback, what is the distance from the curb to this property line?
Staff can manually measure it, but it looks like let's see. It's a little bit over 30, so maybe around 35 feet.
Okay.
Anything else, Robert?
No, thank you.
John?
Noriko, so the tree that I'm seeing there right now at the corner, is that existing or proposed?
That is a proposed tree.
Okay, is there nothing there now?
Just to show you the existing conditions, there is an existing, I think this is a weeping bottle brush. See right here at the corner? This tree is a little bit located towards the east, and
Right.
this is the actual intersecting point. So it's just mainly turf, and there is the weeping bottle brush somewhere around here,
Right.
and creating a shadow there.
Okay. Okay, a couple more questions. So the driving force of all of this is turf reduction, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And, in these situations, I'm not a landscape architect, so I lean a bit on the staff report, but there are a couple things here. You speak about the monotonous and the repetition of these low and medium height shrubs, as well as the lack of shade, and I kind of get it, having walked those streets. That's full on south exposure right now on that side, and you don't even have the benefit on the other side because you catch the shadow of the landscape material that's there. So I can see how you came to these conclusions. Those are my questions.
Thank you. John McCoy?
Clarification on the conditions. So number one is very clear about the corner. You recommend approval with conditions. The second condition is that you would like to see them add trees?
Yes, particularly,
Okay.
so this is
I just want to clarify that you are saying we
Right.
want more trees.
correct,
Okay.
yes.
And no existing trees are being removed.
No existing trees.
Okay.
So the project area, just to avoid.
It's just between the curb and the sidewalk.
Correct, it's just this area only, so everything that's on this side will remain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Noriko, if we're talking about the corner cutback at the street intersection, is the corner cutback also needed to be in effect at the driveway where people are leaving this complex? Because that looks more impacted to me than the actual corner of the intersection of the streets.
The corner cutback is defined in a zoning code as a intersecting points of a property lines that are extended. So in this case, the tree is located at the two intersecting property line, the edge of it. I understand that the property has an entrance to the complex, and the staff actually visited the site, and there are some existing trees, but did not think that based on the plant palette that they are proposing would not be an issue. And then also, we have engineering department staff, so he can further clarify if it needs to be.
Thank you. No more questions. Is the applicant here? Would you like to come forward, give us your name and any comments that you might have about the design that you've prepared?
Is it on? Yes, it is on. My name is David Navarro, and I work with Conserve Land Care. So basically, the design that we tried to implement here was we wanted to really focus on kind of giving more of an arid landscape. So we kind of just have more transparency in the space. The biggest concern that the HOA had was having plant material blocking the street, since it is a busy street, and having plant material spilling over into the bike lane. They're proud of their grass and they want to keep most of it, but they also, they understand the demand for water and want to be conscious of their use. So places like this is where obviously they're not watering it now, but they want to beautify their space.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant from the committee? Thank you very much. Committee comments?
I've got a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So have you walked, the board has full approval of these plans? They understand all the plans and what the plants are and what they do? Is that-
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure of that. Some of your plants are all beautiful. I'm just a little concerned that agave tequilana, tequilana, it's big and it's sharp, and I just want to reiterate, make sure you plant it maximum size will not intrude onto the curb area or the sidewalk. There are other places in town where they've used beautiful big agaves and they intrude and they are columns because they have to stay cut. If you're gonna do something like this, when you're actually siting them, I wanna make sure that you,
We'll make sure to plant them in bigger spaces. The planter bed or the existing turf areas, in some areas it does get reduced and it's like an 18-inch space. But there's larger spaces as you move closer to the corner that probably go into 10 to 12 feet wide. So in spaces like that where we could plant such like the agave tequiliana, that's where we foresee, installing them, and we'll make sure once we're out there in the field that
yeah, because they can get 10 feet wide. On the corner in question, you've got the euphorbia that sticks on fire. You have them as a line of plants as if they are small decorative plants. These things get very large, and that row of them that you have here they'll be big. And that can obscure the views that they're discussing trying to keep in the setting of the tree. Your balance of plants there seems backwards. Some of them are lower in the back and taller in the front. Please revisit.
So we will consider find a substitution for that plant. Initially, the community wanted to set a monument. They wanted to do signage and then create a hedge with the fire sticks, but they retracted from that. So we could find something that substituted with something else that will stay low within the ordinance.
Okay. Yeah, fire sticks won't turn into a hedge, and your workers will not like them. So trees, have you given any consideration yet as to comments back from staff? Have you had a chance to take that to the board?
I haven't revisited that with the HOA, but I don't see them. I think it's a good idea. So, I think they'll go for it.
Okay. All right. Those are my primary concerns. I do reiterate, or not reiterate. I agree with the comment made at the entry, the sight lines. As people are pulling out, it's not a youthful community, it's more retirement, that visually, making sure there's clear lines. And
I think adding those trees, and if we add those trees and, it'll help give it some height and elevation, and then we could take away those palm trees, and then it would really give that open space that we'll need.
okay. Thanks.
Robert, any questions, comments? John? My only comment is just to say that I really appreciate what you're saying about putting trees on that corner cutoff. Take off the lower plant material so people can see, because it is a very busy street. Other than that, I think it's quite nice. If the corner cut back, can that tree just be pulled towards the walls of the project so we don't lose the tree? It'll just be moved out of the corner.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
Are we approving as is, or are we going to look at trees?
The question was, are we approving because we don't know what the trees are? And I would like to suggest that we let that be reviewed by staff
Yeah,
and that
that-
we could approve this now.
So the motion could include a condition for the applicant to include more trees, but that could be reviewed at the staff level.
Okay, motion to approve, based on the issues brought forth by staff regarding the corner cutback, addition of trees, and review of the planting plans at prime site, potential site impaired areas.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If I want to amend or add something.
I jumped ahead, sure.
I just want to amend the motion by adding John's comments, because I did notice that the agave tequilana, there are some places where it is located where it's narrower rather than wider. So I think that those areas need to be relooked at. And some of the other comments, just, so that they're taken into effect, and let staff review it from that point.
Okay, I'll
You
accept
You accept?
that revision.
Okay, any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? No one opposed? All in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you. So Noriko, you're our staff on this next one also?
Yes.
Okay, new business item number 3, request by Anna Escalante AIA on behalf of Donald Kick for a major architectural application to construct a 2,513 square foot single-family residence on an undeveloped hillside parcel located at 2100 Tuscan Road. Staff report, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is a proposed single-family residential development project on a parcel that's located in the hillside area. The project site is located at the corner of a former Tuscan Road right-of-way and Via Escuela. The image on the left shows the overall the property line, and the image on the right kind of shows you what is a portion that was vacated in the past, which is now a part of this property. The size of the parcel is approximately 22,328 square feet. And this is a proposed residence. It's a single-story residence. The roof will be flat, and the residence will actually gonna have a main entrance on the west elevation, if you don't mind. So the residence is going to have the front entryway right over here and connects to the foyer and to the kitchen and the great room. And then also there is outdoor patio area, the deck, and then the pool. And the foyer also extends to the north of the property, which is gonna have master bedrooms, zen room, and guest rooms. And there will be a closet and bar, mechanical equipment room, and the residence will also going to have an attached carport. This is the primary elevation, the south elevation of the residence that's being proposed. The proposed project will include the different types of materials, and that include, it's gonna have board formed poured in place concrete for the wall, the painted 20 gauge galvanized standing seam metal panels, and the panels treated with a drywall and paper backed fiberglass, galvanized sheet metal fascia, and low emissivity dual pane glass with aluminum frame, painted with structural steel and concrete beams. The building elevations will also accommodate a large sliding glass doors accompanied with aluminum sliding louver doors on the exterior. And this is the view of the property taking from the southwest direction, looking towards the residence. And this is a west elevation, which is where the primary entrance will be located. And this is a view of the residence taking from the southeast corner of the property. And this is the east elevation, which is going to be facing the existing single-family residence. And this is the north elevation, which is currently facing, which will face actually a vacant parcel for now. And the project proposes different types of landscaping materials, such as heritage live oak, California pepper trees, and other drought-tolerant plant materials throughout the site. And this is just the material boards to show the low emissivity glass that's being proposed for the elevations, as well as poured in concrete. And finally, let's see. Excuse me. Oh, thermally broken sliding door and window frame, a section or details that's shown here. Based on, well, excuse me, the proposed project conforms to the R1B zone development standards in terms of setbacks and the building height and so forth. Based on the submittal, staff finds that proposed hybrid Bermuda exceeds the maximum allowable turf area that's stipulated in the zoning code. A brand new single-family residence such as this one cannot really have more than 50% of turf area in the front and the front side street areas. And staff recommends the Architectural Advisory Committee to recommend approval to the Planning Commission, subject to the condition that the turf area, the use of hybrid Bermuda turf to be reconsidered. And this concludes the staff presentation, and the applicant is here in the audience, and we are here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Noriko. Any questions of staff from the committee? John Walsh.
Noriko, it is in front of us because it is a hillside lot, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, if that wasn't the case, it would not be.
Correct.
Okay. In terms of this was created out of a lot split, I take it? No. There was an abandonment of, speak to the issue there.
So years ago, the city was involved in what's called the vacation process.
Right.
Tuscan Road was actually a city road. It was never constructed. And I believe that the only utility in there that was ever installed was a sewer main. And as part of the vacation process, the way that it works per the MAP Act is, so you see where it says parcel 2, and you see where it says Tuscan Road, and the center line of Tuscan Road, and the lot that would be to the west of this was also created as part of that same map. Whenever you do a vacation process, the way that it works in the MAP Act is when we vacate a road, parcel 2 is entitled by law to half of the right-of-way of Tuscan Road at a 90-degree extension from their property line to the center line of Tuscan Road. And where you see the frontage of Via Escuela, it continues along to what would be the center line of Tuscan. And after the vacation process is done, they essentially split that half street right away between each parcel. It now becomes part of parcel 2, but what we did is when we vacated it, we reserved an easement over it for utility purposes or for sewer And in the vacation document, it actually says what the reservation was for. Sometimes they're just for sewer, sometimes it's, you know, a 10-foot wide strip over that area, just kind of depends. In this case, it was just an easement reserved over the entire area for the sewers that are in there. But essentially, their property line now comes out to the center line of Tuscan. So their setbacks theoretically should be measured from the center line of Tuscan, not from the old original west property line of parcel 2. So they could, you know, shove this house as far over as they can, as long as it meets that side yard setback. So that Tuscan area would be considered a side yard, you know. That, if that explains that.
Maybe, if I, if, what it, see, I thought it was a lot split, and this was also created out of it. This is a legal lot of record up here, correct?
Correct. There was a record or survey that was done years ago, long time ago, that created the parcel that is in question now and the one to the north.
And how was this served from?
They have a roadway easement along Tuscan, so the road.
Which would come in this way?
No, from
that
Via
way.
Escuela, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's confusing.
Yeah, so when the road gets constructed, so you'll see on the board sheet there below you where they're proposing their driveway coming in on Tuscan.
Right.
That will come up and then they'll take access to their carport. If somebody else develops to the north of them, they'll continue with that roadway all the way up. It's just considered, it would be considered a private drive
For those two?
for those two.
Okay.
3 months there.
Yeah, the lot to the west would probably not take access from there. They would probably take access from Via Escuela itself.
Take it as a utility easement, I think.
Yeah.
So even going further north, I'm sorry, are you done, John?
Yes.
Oh, even going further north, is that lot then access from Tuscan? Because Tuscan dead ends.
It dead ends, yeah. It would actually be, I don't know what that cross street is going east and west, north of that location.
It's Olivera, which is
They would-
several houses, several properties up.
Yeah, so they would have to take access off of the other part of Tuscan that was not vacated.
Okay, and there is no plan to connect this
No.
Tuscan with the existing Tuscan?
Correct, that's the reason why it was vacated, because it's not on the general plan to actually have it go through.
Okay.
Robert, any more questions of staff?
Thanks.
John, questions of staff?
Not at this moment.
I have no questions either. I know that the applicant is here. Could you please come up and give us your name and a little presentation of the project?
Hello, my name is Ana Escalante. I'm the architect for the project. I have a lot of jet lag. I don't live here anymore. I live in Sweden. So I just came here for this puppy. The owner is a friend of mine, and we have been working on it, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. Because he owns the 3 lots. And we started at the one at the top. That's what he wanted to have all the bells and whistles. The one in the middle is a little bit iffy, so we moved down here. I kind of talked him down from a big house to a smaller smaller house. So it's almost like a retirement house for him. What would you like me to say about the project? Do you want me to talk about the architecture?
I'm very curious about the construction type.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So could you tell us how it's built
Yeah.
and what it's made of?
Okay, I'm sure you're familiar with Don Wexler. I worked with Don for I don't know how many years. But at any rate, this system is based on the steel houses. For example, do you know Jim Iserman?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I did the guest house. That's my puppy. So essentially, what we're talking about here is a system of these 16-inch panels that in Don's day, there were 3 inches. Now they're 4. They're 4, and the wall is not like what it used to be when we put an air gap, et cetera, et cetera. I can do a little detail if you want me to, But essentially, there are these panels that are interlocked. They're shop fabricated. This house is not prefab; it's shop fabricated. And every 13 feet, in order for the system to give you like lateral and stuff like that, every 13 feet you have to incorporate a post. In downstairs, it used to be like a 3x3. We use 4x4. And then, so you keep it like that, and then with the exception of the roof, that we, at some point I was going to use the same panel, the 16-inch interlocking panel, but he really wants to put eventually PV panels, so we decided to go with a flat roof. You know, there is no such a thing as a flat. It's a quarter or a 1/8 inch per foot, and so that's what it is. And what is the plan? Okay, over here. Can I grab a thing? Oh, this one? Okay. Essentially.
Yes.
Essentially.
Can you
Okay.
get it from her?
Okay. Essentially, what we have is that this is a core, and the core, for a variety of reasons, is made out of put-in-place concrete. And then, if you would look at the working drawings, there is a grid that actually each single panel, no matter what, we're not violating the system. So the glazing, you know, obviously clients have I want this room, I want whatever, but every 13 feet we have to have a post. Some of them stay at the edge of the horizontal, what we call the horizontal bandana, which you can see it right here, and some of them go up. And how the main challenge perhaps was, you know, Title 24, of course. In that, I have my few tricks that I have developed over the years to try to keep, because the struggle with this architecture is that if you're not very systematic and rigorous, it ends up looking like a dog. So essentially, you see like two roofs, one on top of another, and it's one going in one direction, and that's essentially there's one roof going this way, and you have another one going over here. So in order to manipulate, using a performance method, the energy requirements, and we're also using triple glaze. Because I know, I mean, I've been there, done that too many times, and I know, you know, we've done it before. This will be my, my fourth project in that system, so you know.
Is it a poured on slab grade? A poured on grade slab?
Yeah. Except because the site, one of my biggest nightmares, and maybe because it happened to me with the last rain in my house, is flooding. So in some areas, because there is part of the topography over here that's been beaten by the rains, and you know, it's pretty bad. So essentially, in some areas, what I did is it's on grade here, but then it's not. It has a little stem wall around in order to have that thing floating, because I really want to make sure that all the water that might happen during a flood doesn't get in. I mean, it's just that simple. And at the same time, it kind of helps the architecture, because all of a sudden it's not rooted on the ground, it's more like floating. Okay?
John, any questions?
My only question is regarding the lawn, turf area.
Yes.
It's hard to define on the plans.
Yeah. I thought we submitted new drawings with the. Okay. Oh, it's not in here? Okay. Essentially what we have, he has an old dog, and I'm a dog person, so I was
I
like.
figured it was a dog with that
Yeah.
quantity of turf.
And because this changed name, but in the past it used to be, it is his doggy pool.
It is still on this
Oh, it's still there? Okay, sorry about that. But anyway, we just had a little section here for the dog. And I kind of had this image, and I talk him into, it would be nice because even in the summer, the dog is getting really old, and I know the dog, it's not going to be forever. But to have a little patch of grass so the dog can do his business and at least, and that's what it was. I do apologize that this is the render getting a little bit out of hand. But essentially what we want to do, if you look at the pictures of the existing site, we want to preserve it because it's been building like that for over 100 years. So our idea is to not to put grass or anything like that, but a little patch of grass for the little guy.
Okay, so the 15% that was dated, you'll,
If I have to access
Stay
it, it's
underneath.
gone. I mean, but I'm just thinking, I'm just trying to please Don. And I hope this is not on TV because I said just exit.
okay. Only other comment is you, in your, the open space, you chose a California pepper tree.
Excuse
which-
me?
The plant, the tree that you chose for inside of the courtyard.
I don't even remember what I called it.
It's a beautiful tree, and it'd be lovely there.
What was it?
California pepper,
Oh, yeah, I love California pepper.
roots, and very, very messy.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What I was looking for, literally what I really love would be like a Mexican Palo Verde, but I thought that they were too messy. I would like to have like a little tree there.
yeah, I think it's a lovely idea. I was
Okay, so we should
wanting to say
explore it.
that pepper
Okay.
is very messy too, and it looks like your access
Yeah.
through that
And-
space
Yeah, and I don't
will be
want
used
a
often.
tree that in a few years, is kind of taking over. No.
Right, it's going to reconsider.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's a great comment because
And
I was
I'm-
not aware of it.
I think it's a beautiful design. I know the other thing. You spec'd light fixtures, which I appreciate. Well lights have par lamps, which if you can pick ones that have MR16,
Okay.
the throw of a par is much further up into the sky if you're doing landscape lighting. And then you've got, on the house, you've got down lights. Love them. You've also got up and down. Can we eliminate the up?
Okay. So.
I'll let you guys.
And it's a beautiful project.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We
Couple
worked
of-
very hard.
Yeah, I worked for Don years ago too, so I understand
did?
the whole concept of
yeah.
what he taught everybody.
Yeah.
Couple of questions that relate not so much to the architecture, but just for the uses of the home. Are the louvers that are on those doors movable?
Yes.
And
That's
what?
the whole point.
And they're made of steel or aluminum, I assume?
I have done them both ways. I did it in steel, actually, machine. But I have my bag of tricks because I have a funny. Can I tell a story? The first time I did the louvers was I think it was 2007, I think, and no, it was before when the economy tanked. So all the manufacturers were really busy, and I went, I did what any architect would do. I went to the Swiss catalog. I found these really cool louvers, and I called these people. And at first they're like, "Yeah, sure." And then when I told them how many I wanted, which in that case I think there were 6, and the guy there was silence on the phone. "Ma'am, we do for high rises. Don't ever call me again." So what I did with the assistance of my former partner, we just reverse engineered them. So we had them fabricated. So I have shop drawings and everything, and I use a combination of Hafele hardware from the Netherlands, and then I have a manufacturer down by San Bernardino, and they work. They really work.
It looks on the plan like there are 2 sliding glass doors in the living room, and the pool deck is at least a little more than a foot below the living room floor. What's going to keep people from falling out of the living room down onto that pool deck? Are you going to be required, do you think, to have a guardrail there?
Oh, no.
Anna,
I know you don't want one, I know you don't want one, but.
No, I
Anna.
you're talking about here. You're talking about here, right?
Yes.
Okay, this is fix, fix, fix. Fix up to here, and then this one slides, and the other one slide. So I don't think they're gonna fall. If,
excuse me, can I talk from here? So let's call. You want to?
yeah,
Do you,
Sure, if you can
Okay.
clarify.
you have to come up here and introduce yourself, please.
he's my assistant.
That rendering is
Can you
not.
introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Guadalupe. I'm Anna's drafter. We actually lowered that this here. It's actually about a foot lower now. So it's not really, there's not really a step there like that. You know?
I mean, we have to bring it back if that is the case. But anyway, there is a change difference that, like you said, it will require a rail.
And
But-
which we would all hate to see, so it might be
Yeah.
that your sliding glass doors just go out the end of the building and
Yeah,
not the
maybe.
pool side of
I
the
think
building.
we're gonna have to do that. Yeah, that kind of sense.
Talking about the site, did you give any consideration to the driveway continuing as a circular drive? My concern is to back out of the carport, you're
Mm-hmm.
going uphill 4 feet along a curve. That's a really tough maneuver.
Yeah, one of the things that I consider, but I have certain pet peeves, is to just shoot it from here and forget about it, just kind of landscape it like I did it with the Linsky residence. But one of the things that I always struggle with, at least for me as an architect, is that I don't want to keep the driveway, that sort of primal real estate from the street. So, but yeah, we can
I can
redo, but
to-
it's tough.
I can
know.
totally appreciate that. I just mean if you went out of the top of the
You mean if I
carport
came?
and connect up to the big, so you have a
Over
totally
here?
circular drive, so you would never have
Yeah,
to
we could
back
do that.
out. You would be able to just drive
Yeah,
straight
let me
forward.
think about it. You mean that we continue this guy?
Yeah,
Yeah, if we can do it in a.
I think the
Yeah, I
homeowner
think
would
we can do
appreciate it
Yeah,
for getting
I
out.
think you're right.
And I'm confused a bit about the site walls. When you look at the site plan, it specifically labels that wall to the left of the entry walk as being 5 feet tall,
Over here?
that one. But on the rendering, it's shown as about 18 inches tall.
Well, there is one of the issues with the walls that I took them out of the rendering so you could see the elevation. So,
So the intention then is that walkway going to the front door from the street, you'd have a 5-foot-high wall on either side of you, and the walkway's only
you
about
mean over
6.
here?
Yep.
Oh, no, just one wall.
Well, isn't there one by the pool also?
No, this one, it just goes to the base of the pool, and then it's going to have a glass screen, like a sandblasted glass.
So the pool wall that's shown on some of the site sections and stuff that's shown as a solid wall coming 5 feet above the water, is that not correct?
Okay, you're probably were looking at this one.
No, the swimming pool one. See the wall, there's a wall on 3 sides of the pool, and it's actually labeled as being 5 feet tall.
That's not right. This has, because we bring the glass, I mean, we just keep, I don't want to have this big wall. It's too unfriendly to the street. So we keep it, at the right height, and then we go with sandblasted glass, with steel members.
So then kind of a technical nitpicky question, how does somebody clean the pool? You can't walk around it. How do you scrub the walls on all 4 sides of the pool?
That's a good point. I mean, honestly, that's a good point. Because I always thought that I think you have to walk around, right? Yeah,
And same with the doggy pool. It looks like it's just a 12-inch wide bond beam or 12-inch wide wall. So your pool man's got to be kind of an acrobat if he can walk along that 12-inch wide wall to
no,
clean
but
the
this one is
pool.
very low. I mean,
Well,
somebody
it's 5 feet above the grade. It's on that rendering to your right.
over here. No, this guy should be it's like that. That's when you bring the drawings from a different program into the rendering program. But according to the topo lines, the thing is like that.
And finally, on the wall panels, they come out, they're made in the shop with the exterior surface and the finished interior finish?
No. The way they come out, they take because I've seen them, how they fabricate them. Number one, because we're trying to get shear and stuff like that, the foundation, we use a system we create a template and we put the bolts, the Hilti bolts to attach the walls. That is taken to the shop. In what comes to the site are these bent panels, which they look like. We're gonna write. They look like this. Something like that. So this one is 16. If they just come stack. They bend them. It's a 20 gauge. They bend it, but they do something in the shop in order to avoid oil canning. What Don Wexler did, he put a strip of drywall. He uses 1/2 inch. I use 5/8, and that's how they come. And then at the bottom and at the top, they have these little bends. They already come in like a toy, that they have to fit perfectly. And then the bando shut screw over here and also at the bottom. But you have it's not like the sheet metal is doing the whole structural thing. You still have beams and columns and things like that. And then the rest, once that is done, that's when we start like leaving a 1/2 inch air space, and we put essentially another light gauge thing.
And so they're called out as standing seam panels. How big is the seam that's standing out from the face of the panel?
Nothing.
Nothing. So it's not a standing seam?
No. It's just a generic name that they give it. And then they put bando here. And then from a distance, you can see the line, and that's why they have to be so sequential. And that's how we did it before. I should have brought some photographs.
Thank you. It's very interesting. Appreciate their time.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant? Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Committee comments.
I think it's a beautiful house, and it's actually nice to see something of this scale come through that's very livable. I agree with the potential comment of the driveway.
Okay. John Walsh?
Just a couple observations. Yes, it has a wonderful scale to it. There's an instant tidiness to the floor plan that you can kind of appreciate. And I oftentimes think that comes out of when you have a forced modular system of any sort, you automatically check into a rhythm, and the house kind of self-balances and things look right. So I think that your plan is very successful like that. Just so I understand, may I ask more questions?
Sure.
Okay. This is a steel frame, is that correct? Okay, got it.
Okay.
And there were a couple things, I'm sorry to bring you back here, but.
No, that's okay. I love speaking about the system.
I went hunting for a few things that are called out and I couldn't find them. Metal Z-bar trellis.
Oh, that's fabricated too. If you go.
Am I seeing it?
No, you're not.
Okay,
I wish I would have put the picture.
okay, because
I think I have them in my cloud. I can find them if you want to.
okay, so it isn't on the elevations there.
You see them from theoretically, you should be able to see them from, no, you don't. Because we have them here.
And it's something that is applied to the fascia level, perhaps?
What we do is we have the outriggers,
Yes.
the beams that have to be at the top. We extend them and then we put a little L
Yes.
in a little intermediate space, depending upon how they go, and
Right.
that's how we do it.
And its extension out from the roof plane?
No, it doesn't extend. It fits right within. And we leave, and what we do is when we attach them to the L,
Yes.
we leave like an oval hole. So if that thing expands or contracts, it doesn't
I
scratch.
see. So is there any further extension or overhang that is created by the trellis, by the?
Yes,
or-
yes,
How,
yeah.
how far does that extend
Okay.
out, is my question.
Over here
Yes.
and over here. So, excuse me, here and here. Excuse me, and here. Sorry. Yeah, those are the three areas.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Have you been at this? You have been at the still houses, right?
Yes.
Okay. When you go into Iserman, which is the one that has the yellow curtains, when you go in the carport, between the carport and a little open space,
Right.
that's where the guest house starts. If you get to the edge of the carport and you look up, you see what I'm talking
I
about.
see, I see. Okay, okay. Back to
Discussion?
yeah,
Comments?
this is these type of sites, albeit a hillside, which adds the sort of torturous process of going through committees and all. I think it's a wonderful invitation to do these one-off, well-studied design solutions and houses. And each one, as you sort of drive around up there and in other parts of Palm Springs, they sort of tuck neatly and nicely into the topography and the landscape. And I think you've done well dealing with a site that, has about a 10-foot fall to
Yes.
it, corner to corner. So it's both an opportunity that yields a good design like this, as well as I think there is no sort of strong contextual thing to sort of be asking about or making judgments in terms of fitting into neighborhoods. I think just fine. It is its own wonderful thing. End of story.
Thank you. Robert?
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful home, and I happen to live in that neighborhood, so I appreciate
Oh,
it coming.
that's good.
So, thank you.
Okay.
I think it's an instant classic.
Thank you. Thank you.
The only comment I would have other than what I said earlier, is the jacuzzi is really out there in everybody's view from the neighboring homes. I don't know, to create some privacy around that, if there would be additional landscaping, if you would do some sort of screen with
Yeah.
obscure glass or something, but I'm gonna guess the
Yeah.
owner's gonna want more privacy there.
No, here's what I was thinking about, because when somebody, not the neighbor, but there was a house that was built recently, within the last 3 or 4 years, I think, and they dumped a lot of the rocks into his lot. So thinking that we are going to have to reconfigure, because with the civil engineer, even though we did the preliminary grading, but I have my own concerns, and maybe use some of that loose rock to create some sort of like a little cove or something like that.
Nice,
Something like that.
thank you. Any other questions? Troy, Robert?
I haven't had a chance to really look at all the grades, but his point brings up an interesting question with public health and fencing, the 5-foot fencing around pools. I mean, how are you going to address that, particularly as you're around the jacuzzi?
The jacuzzi would also be impacted? Well, in that case, the jacuzzi becomes a water feature, if that is the case, I suppose.
Even if it's a water feature,
it's only like-
if it's less than 18 inches, you don't need the fence.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I thought, here's what I have done in the past, in order to avoid that, those ugly things, is that normally we use a lot of the byproduct of the site. We're going to have tons of rocks and stuff like that. And what I have done in the past, and what I did with one of my favorite projects, actually, to avoid that, we use a lot of rocks and we put a lot of impediments. I mean, for somebody, like I'm talking about the Linsky residence, I don't know if you're aware of it, but in order for someone to come in from the next lot into his pool, even a child, is impossible. Because we landscaped that area with rocks, cholla cactus. We did a lot of barriers, and we avoided that.
I don't know that they're going to buy that anymore.
Well,
But that, you'll get that when you get through plan check, but I
Yeah.
don't think they accept that any longer.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, I have to think about, that would eliminate that one, absolutely. That wouldn't be an issue. But this one is only for the dog, so it can be 18 inches. So here it will be my challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you for the information. Because that was the issue that we confronted with Andy. We will have to block the view and put those things that are really unsightly. We just made a bomb-proof that nobody.
It's a big challenge that, as a committee, we notice on all the hillside properties, is not wanting to block your view, but needing to comply with the safety requirement.
Wow.
So, I will add some comment to that. I think it's a great project, but I think there are things that need to be brought back to us,
Yeah.
particularly any of the fencing. Space around the pool for maintenance, I mean, that's really the owner's deal, but, I mean, it's something that was brought up, and maybe you
Yeah.
can look at it and address it.
Yeah,
But
we have
I think
to.
actually, in general, because I do live in that neighborhood, we don't like big berms of boulders, we like it more natural, so if you.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
You know, not to overdo it.
Yeah.
I mean, you almost have to choreograph them.
So, I think, I'd like to see you come back with some resolution to some of the fencing and
Okay,
those issues.
and when do you want me to come back with that? Could it be when we, because we're really.
I think you can work it out with staff.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I was thinking in the construction document phase.
I don't think it's gonna stop your,
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're a little bit under the gun right now.
yeah, but I think you can work that out with
Well, I
staff.
have to. Oh my God, I would kill myself if.
But that's
end up
my-
with a plastic thing. Oh Jesus.
That's my comment, it's not necessarily what we're
I'll
voting
never
on,
come back to
so.
Palm Springs if that's the case.
Any other comments? Do we have a motion?
I guess I'll move.
Yep, since you,
Approve with the condition that you come back and address some of the fencing issues, access issues around the pool.
Yeah. I have a question because I haven't been.
Hold on.
Okay, sorry.
And then maybe also, you can consider that, but also the circular drive, but that's really, I won't put that in as a condition,
Okay.
but it's something you may consider.
Okay.
let us finish the motion and we
sorry,
can finish
sorry.
it. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Beautiful house, thank you. And did you,
Can I have a question? Because that's essentially becomes a building permit issue. Are we still we don't use interpretive reviews anymore? Like, you meet the intent of the code, but you don't necessarily use the prescriptive solution?
you'd have to review that with the building department, but
Okay, but I
I
think
know
that's
it's
a-
gotten to be a lot more regulated than it used to be.
Okay, I'll check, because that would be one of the first issues that I would address.
They're here till 6, so maybe wait, when you leave here,
Yeah.
you can ask them.
Or make an appointment, yep, absolutely. Because that's a big issue, and also in common sense, I mean, I don't want anybody to be in danger, like a little kid that gets out and all of a sudden, that's not acceptable either.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we do have one more item.
Okay,
so-
thank you for a
Yeah.
beautiful
Thank you,
project.
thank you.
I do need a couple minutes recess so I can get Glenn back to
Okay.
make a presentation of the last item. Thank you.
We'll take a, thank you, Anna.
Send the page.
And when, would you want me to be back with the revisions before planning commission?
We definitely need a revision for us to prepare a report for the planning commission meeting.
Okay,
Um,
so we won't be scheduled right away, it's gonna have to be
We are
next
talking
month.
about a month or so,
Yeah.
but I can confirm the date.
Yeah, okay,
I still haven't done my conditions yet, Annie, so
yeah, throw me in.
you kind of know what they're gonna do.
Yeah,
What's that? They gotta resolve that.
okay, well, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll see you,
Nobody, construction board never can find the site based on
but
that
I
number.
will have to sit down and.
Oh, what was the, I didn't,
That's okay, you
I
can
went
just
out
go over
to
there right now
2100
if you
Tuscan.
like.
Oh, Tuscan.
I think
Oh, you're right, it's not, it really should have a Escuela address, because
Okay, you need to
You're
go
right.
to the building department for that, yeah.
It's a strange area.
it is.
We should have vacated all of it, not just a
We
section.
get approval from the
The general plan,
architectural
when they
advisory
redid the
committee, but
general
this is
plan,
the
it showed that
so
Tuscan was
now
never
was a
gonna go through.
recommendation,
just because of
from
topography,
approval,
it's
you do the
impossible.
revision
Right. Essentially just vacated the right title and interest, and if there's nothing there, well, after we got
Thank you. Let's proceed to our final new business item. Number 4 is the Palm Canyon Resort, Verizon Wireless, for a conditional use permit to install a wireless communications facility consisting of 3 9-foot 6-inch tall screens to conceal panel antennas on the rooftop of an existing timeshare building located at the Palm Canyon Resort and Spa at 2800 South Palm Canyon Drive. May we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. This project is before you as a addition of 3 cell towers on top of the Palm Canyon Resort. And to start off, I'll show you the orientation of where we are looking at. The Palm Canyon Resort consists of 4 buildings and a lobby building. The building that is in question is on South Sierra Madre, the corner of Murray Canyon and South Sierra Madre. And the red stars that are showing are the locations of where they're proposing to add the antennas on the roof. So in your packet, there's a series of drawings that show the details of the proposal. So the 3 locations on the roof will be connected to an equipment room that is behind an existing trash area that is screened already. So they will lease 200 and some square feet within the area to provide the generator and all the equipment that goes along with these types of facilities. So in this drawing, you'll see that the arrays are attached to a racking system. And when staff first saw this, the design of the units on the roof was a box, just a stucco box. And we've worked with them to find an element within the building complex that would be complementary to the architecture. And they proposed this sort of curve on top of the screening. So the screen is 9 foot 6 feet tall, and then they add another 2 feet for the curved element to add the architectural detail to the top of the units. So they provided us with some photo simulations of what these will look like. And keep in mind that once the Planning Commission approves the CUP for the design, this may be replicated on this building and other locations for other co-location like T-Mobile or this is Verizon, it could be AT&T. And normally you'll see these as part of a tower, monopole, monopalm. This is a different design to add on top of the roof. It's existing. The area in South Palm Canyon Drive is absent of some cell service, so this will provide a service to those folks that live in the south end of town, and planning staff has heard that over the years that there's cell service is limited. So there are, as I mentioned, several photo sims of what this will look like, what they're proposing on the roof section. There also is a coaxial enclosure that runs down the side of the building that would be made of metal and be painted to match the existing building. And the design of the enclosure or the screening, as you can see, this is a picture of what is up there now, will be frame wood box with stucco with these sort of detail showing the relief and the circular portion of it. The cable enclosure will be powder-coated steel textured to blend the existing stucco exterior. And then the FRP, which is the antennas. Screen wall will have stucco-like finish painted to match the existing parapets. And they included not a paint chip sample, but a description of the sort of the off-white cream color. So these are some photographs of where the antenna will go on top of the balcony stacks there, and then the one in the middle. And this is a picture of an existing facility area which is inside the courtyard area. So in our recommendation, we support the placement of the telecommunication devices on rooftops as a viable option for construction with the viable option to providing the monopoles and monopalms. We discussed possibly setting back the units from the roof itself, and the applicant is here and she probably can describe why these units need to be right at the edge of the building and not set farther back. The AEC and Planning Commission reviewed a similar building off of Gene Autry Trail maybe a year ago.
Yes.
It was a similar situation. It was on top of the moving van company off of Gene Autry by the Staples Shopping Center. And that was the same situation. They put the units right at the edge, and there was a long description as to why they couldn't move them. So you may want to ask that question again, because that may be. So other options, we could widen these out, make them wider, longer, so they don't look so tall, but I'll leave that up to the AEC and your expertise. So that concludes my report, and the applicant is here.
Thank you, Glenn. Any questions of staff?
One, do we know where that chase is on the side of the building?
Yes.
Is it, I'm missing that. Okay.
Yes, I had it in a drawing. Right, a previous drawing has it. This looks like a different version. Let me go to the screen.
Oh, I think I found it. A6.
Oh, there it is, yes. So on this screen, it's here, and this is the end of the building. So the equipment shelter sits here. So all the conduit and wires would run along the roof to this end and then come down. So there's only one, so we don't have other ones coming off the side of the building, just this one location that would come down.
Okay, so the top right corner, there's the angled piece of the building, and then the windows just to the left of that. It's tucked in that corner between those windows and.
This is the balcony stack, and this is the edge of the building here. And
so that you got a straight wall and the angled wall. It's in that corner where the angle and the
here's the angle
flat
wall.
wall meet.
No, I think this is.
Or does
this
it run
is the
down the
balcony
angled
stack.
wall? It doesn't look like it run down.
Let me get a picture. Right, so it would run along here.
Okay.
So here's the corner, and then it sets back, and there's a row of windows. So it's up here, and the would run down here, and the equipment room is over here.
Okay, thanks.
Glenn, are these condominiums or is this like a holiday resort?
It's timeshares.
Timeshares. Is there a homeowner association involved in that?
I'd have to ask no, it's the company owns the whole Palm
Okay.
Canyon LLC
All right.
resorts.
Okay, so the consideration of specific owners is not part of this?
No.
Okay. Okay, if I'm understanding it correctly, these towers will be seen far more clearly from Sierra Madre and a little bit from Murray Canyon as opposed to Palm Canyon.
Right, and in the staff report, I write about that they're visible from they won't be visible from Palm Canyon.
Right.
Which is maybe considered the main street or main thoroughfare, where Murray Canyon and Sierra Madre are secondary streets.
Okay, okay. Now, the masking attempt here with that wood framed whatever is separate. There's no structural relationship between the tower and this masking element. Is that correct?
You mean the balcony tower, or?
Are the towers that are proposed self-supporting?
The screens? Yes, there's a detail.
The equipment, the tower that is
Oh.
holding whatever electronic devices, are they self-supporting?
They would be attached to the roof in some manner.
Okay, do we know what they look like? That's kind of my bonehead question, but I just, what are we hiding here?
Well, on sheet A5,
And
Yes,
it looks like A4 shows the elevation and A5 shows the plan.
hold on.
Maybe that's a plan on A4.
I
think that's a plan also.
I think they're all a plan.
all right, and then in your packet, there's a detail of the bracketing system. This is mainly the screening, how the screen is going to be built. It's after the pictures.
After,
John, there you go. Just flip that one
Okay.
sheet up, you'll
all
see.
right. Okay, okay. All right, so what we're looking at is the screening. See what?
So I think the applicant can describe it better than I can.
I'm happy to wait until we
Okay.
get our applicant.
Mr. Chair, if I can come in really quick, but also if I understand your question correctly, the code also requires that every mechanical equipment such as this be screened. I think we also had a similar question as to why it can be left alone the way it is, but the code actually requires that they be screened. So, and that is why you are seeing the screening to conceal the antennas themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, you just can't have the antennas on a
On
rack.
top,
They
yeah.
have to be screened. That's how we
Robert,
get
any
the
questions
height.
for staff?
Yes, I do. This pediment detail, it only occurs on the courtyard side. There's nothing on the exterior of the building that has that,
You're right, it faces the pool area.
just the pool area, okay.
It's actually the top of the elevator shaft.
Okay. I'll ask the applicant some other questions, because I think they may be better suited. Is there, in general, with screening of mechanical, is there a way that you can do a visibility study that for cutoffs so that, my concern is these look really out of proportion. And I'm wondering, the extra 2'4" is horrible to adding to the problem. And I'm wondering if it's possible to just bring it all the way down, and if they did a study to see how far away you'd have to be to actually see the top of this, and if that's ever been proposed, and if what the city's view on that is.
Well, so to respond to that specifically, Glenn referenced a similar project that was approved about approximately 2 years ago, the one at the 700 South Genotry. If it will help the AAC to better understand that screening, yes, you can ask to see some kind of studies or photo sims to help you determine the level of that height, because the antenna itself from the staff report is 8 foot high, if I'm correct, and the proposed screening elements are about 9 foot plus, right?
Yeah, well, that was one of my questions to ask the
Okay,
applicant.
yeah.
Why does it need to sit up at 18 to 24 inches above?
Above the yes. So
Well, in their defense, originally it was just a box, and we asked them to add some
Okay.
detail to the top of it. So that was
Okay.
response to staff's
All right, well, that's fine.
trying to find a middle ground somewhere.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Go ahead.
So, based on, if we approve this, then they can, in the future, whoever would like to put something up there can just go and do it? Or does it come back to us again for another approval to?
Right, so after you make a recommendation, it goes to the Planning Commission for a conditional use permit public hearing. And if that was be approved, then let's say AT&T wanted to come in. We most likely would skip the AAC because we have the architectural design done, but they would still need to go for a conditional use permit at the Planning Commission.
They just keep stacking it?
Right.
Okay.
Glenn, what's the height limit on a building in this
It's 30
situation?
feet.
30 feet?
Right.
So this building is already exceeding the height limit by 3 feet.
Based upon parapets and, yes.
No more questions of staff. The applicant, please give us your name and tell us a little bit about how all this works.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rachel Davidson. I work with Jacobs. We were hired by Verizon Wireless to kind of do their drawings, take it through planning and building and off to RTI until they start the construction. So when we were initially looking at the area, we were looking at something maybe possibly in the golf course area, but like 3 or 4 years later, there was some legal issues that not with us obviously, but with just the manager. They have different types of wireless managers that deal with different areas. For us, we have a building rooftop manager, and they deal with any of the wireless. They have agreements. The owners have agreements with wireless companies, so we work directly with a wireless agent. And so they have one called SBA, and they had some legal issues with doing something within the golf course. And so Verizon was like, okay, we'll cut our losses with that design, and we were looking for different areas. And this was the largest building in the area, and generally to get the widest reaching antenna signal, we like to be put onto the highest buildings. Unfortunately, this building was already at its height limit, so we knew that we had to do a deviation to go higher. Different design options that were discussed, and typically for a rooftop, it is tricky with the design. We try to integrate it into the building as much as possible, but when you have a flat roof like this, it's just, you have boxes on top of a roof. And so moving forward to today, I know you had previously asked why it couldn't be pushed back further. The way that the signal comes off of the antennas, it kind of is directional, so it kind of shoots out, it goes down and up. And so if you're in the middle of the building, you have to be at a lot higher elevation to start the bottom of the antenna. So when you do have the antenna signal, it's not shooting right into the building, and you lose a lot of the use of the antenna if it does that. But putting it in the middle, although technically feasible, you'd be a lot higher elevation, and usually that's looked at as a negative thing. Visually, no one really approves that type of design. So ideally they like to be at the edge of the building, so when it does kind of go out, it's more efficient for the RF signal.
About the racking.
Oh, yes, and you had asked about the racking. So what we do and what we are currently working on is for any existing building, if you're putting anything on top of it, you have to get the existing as-built drawings, and then the engineer basically creates a specific design for each specific roof. And so we have the architectural layout, we have the structural sheets, we have the A sheets of the original building, and what we do is we have the enclosure itself that is mounted into the building to make sure it passes all the structurals, and then the actual equipment itself is on a rack, and that goes on top of, or like right behind, and attaches into that screen. So the equipment itself is on a rack that is on the screen that's attached to the roof. Or if later down the road the engineer decides that it needs an additional item, it's all screened behind that screening. But at this stage, that's where we are. We've done the structurals on it, and when we move it to the building, they generally ask for more details, and we have that all worked out then too. And so that's what the existing one looks like. That's on the roof that faces the pool. And so ours won't look exactly like that behind it because we need to put our equipment, but you kind of get the gist that that one has the beams that come down to attach, and it's also attached on the side, and that's like integrated into the rooftop itself. And so what they do is they cut into the roof to integrate it into the existing beams.
Questions from the committee for the applicant? John?
Thank you. You have described, and I now have a picture in my mind. It's I'm sure, a not tidy racking system, and various pieces of equipment are attached to it.
Mm-hmm. You have antennas, and behind the antennas you have RRUs.
Okay. All right, and it is also sort of sobering to see this is a structurally ambitious little thing, because it's going to have to, you've got lateral loading issues
Mhm.
that are significant. You're adding load,
Yep.
vertical and lateral, through the entire building. So
Mhm.
this, I get it, it's costly and difficult. And you've got existing conditions that are not brand new.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. So I understand now that the bottom of the antenna needs to be up so that the signal going this way is clearing, I guess, the parapet. That's the first hurdle.
Yes.
So the further back, the higher it is, the closer it could be lower. So that's determining the height of these things. So that's why you're up at 9.5 feet.
Right, and I know you had asked previously too, you only have 8 feet antennas. Why do we need this additional extension of the screening? And it's because the conduit kind of adds a little extra to the height of the antenna, where it curves down and then goes into like the conduit
Okay.
route on the roof.
Okay. I just lost my thought. So, is there, and maybe you don't know the answer, but is there some potential plan in the future that this could be expanded onto the other 3 buildings? It may be a different company, but, I mean, is that sort of, do you think?
It's definitely possible, just knowing that this whole hotel business, they have an agreement with ATCs, who I work directly with, and they manage the entire rooftops of all of their hotels. It's in their best interest to get more carriers to come. We had originally proposed this on a different building, but it was visible from Palm Canyon, so we moved it back. Yes.
And then with the screening, because it is a wood frame with a stucco finish, does that impede the signal?
It's made out of, so it has a stucco finish and that does not, and the wood part itself doesn't, but it's actually a special FRP screening material that's behind it, and that's what allows the signal to penetrate that. Yeah.
Okay.
That was
All right,
my
thank you.
question, yeah.
Good question.
John McCoy?
Is there, you've got it up close to the edge of the building,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got this height. Is there a reason why it could go lower?
Like
and
into the building?
wider? So you're, let's say you're 8 feet tall by 10 feet wide. Could you go 4 feet by 20? Can you shorten and spread it out and still get your equipment spread along that
Unfortunately-
is still, you're getting past the edge of the building?
The antennas themselves are 8 feet. If for some reason they're absolutely not going to be allowed, like that's just what Verizon uses right now, I'm not sure if they could do smaller antennas, but you can't like turn them sideways and have them still work the same and make it a wider box. It has to be that height for these types of antennas. Different carriers have different types of systems and they might have smaller antennas, but for what Verizon has right now and what they put on their new sites to get the most efficient signal is the 8-foot antennas. Maybe your second part of your question was, can you lower it? In theory, you could inset it into the building and then sort of just have an FRP material, but then that really involves like cutting into the building. I don't know exactly, like those are rooms right there, so they would have to be moved maybe to a different portion. And then it just gets tricky about, are we going too low where the RF signal can't get the areas along that road that they need? So probably not is my answer.
If you remember when I've been here 12 years, these antennas used to be 6 feet, then they've gotten 7 feet, and now they're 8 feet, so
10's coming.
10's coming, who knows? And we keep hearing that they're all gonna be small and put on light poles now, so
5G.
5G will be small, right?
Any other questions of the applicant? Rachel, normally we'd ask the applicant to sit in the audience, but I'm sure we're going to have more technical questions. So do you mind staying there? So if we want to ask you some more? Okay, let's have the committee discussion.
I appreciate that you tried to find an architectural feature to play off of. As I walked the site, that architectural feature is clearly internal to the pool area and a marker of entries to the building. So I don't think that is a good play to start posting it out of the edges of the building. There's no place from the exterior that you see it. I just have a really hard time with the proportion and placement. It is extremely visible all the way around. And right now, it needs some work, needs some revision. Even the existing equipment rooms have details that are less offensive than that.
Robert?
Well, I don't want to redesign it, but I would first get rid of the arched pediment. And I might pick up, and I think proportionately, it just doesn't fit the building. I think if you're going to do it where you have them, it needs to respond to the balcony widths below. And maybe maybe the whole room isn't that big, but maybe there's at least a facade of it. And I would also probably pick up more of the rectilinear elements of the balcony treatments. You've got the horizontal bands and then vertical bands. and do something, play off of that instead of trying to bring this arched Palladian pediment in that nobody's gonna see from the street or really connects with it. The other thing I would like to see is them do a visibility study in order to try and bring the height of this thing down and to see really how far away you have to stand before you actually start to see the top of the antennas. And if it really does create any kind of impact, because you've got the enclosure that's set back from the balcony, and then the antennas are set back again, I don't know what the distance is, but whatever that is. I think if you were to strike an angle to see what might protrude beyond, we could possibly bring it down because it may be, 3 miles away before you see it. No? Well,
I get it.
huh?
I get it, yeah.
Yeah. It won't be 3 miles, that was an exaggeration, Michael, but, it may not have much of an impact on the or on the surrounding area, that's all.
John?
It's good to get suggestions, yes.
I think that you have helped distill this down to what we now see as clearly an architectural problem, singularly. It's not a technical issue. And I think it's solvable, but I think anything that is successful and does resolve it will change the entire scale, shape, and presentation of this building at an elevational level. It's the type of thing that doesn't come easily. I think it would take many hours of trial and error and getting it to work. That's how I would do it. And there you are. So this is sort of an abrupt, scary graphic to us, just because of the scale. Please take no offense at that, but we do understand that's kind of a starting point, and you're trying to integrate it with the building. That's all good, but it is going to take quite a bit of mileage to get it there.
Thank you. I think that Robert has the right direction, that obviously they made these equipment enclosures as small as they could. I think they need to make them bigger. I think it should be the width of the wider balcony. And that wider proportion is going to make it feel less like a funky little box. And even though you don't need that width within the space, I think we would recognize that that would improve the architecture and make this more interesting. Definitely get rid of the curve from the top of it. And if there's any little, I think what Robert's saying is, if the wall is 6 feet tall and the equipment is 8 feet tall, you'd have to be awfully far away before you'd see over the top of the wall and still see the equipment. So it might be that with a vision study, we could say that that is adequately screened, even though the wall is not as tall as the equipment. I mean, 6 inches at a time will be an improvement to make this fit better on the building. Cell phones are part of life now, but we can't also let them control the aesthetic of what we were doing. That's my comments.
No, I sorry, didn't mean to use offensive, but you're the messenger. And I live at that end of town. I would love to see better service down there. And so I hope that the statements are taken into consideration.
Do we have a motion?
I move to deny and ask that they come back and restudy the screening and take into consideration maybe a visibility study or vision study to see actually if it is possible to bring it down in height. And width, well, yeah.
Real quick, the height, are you talking about the overall height of the screening but not the antenna? Because the antenna is 8 feet
As I
high.
understand it, the antennas are what they are.
Correct.
So it's you're giving them at 9'6". Maybe there's a way to bring the screening down if it doesn't impact, the residents or
So if the antennas are above the screening,
potentially, if I think what we need to see is maybe one view where it brings it down below the top of the antennas and see what the impact is, and the one actually where it's right at the top of it.
Okay.
But maybe it responds better to the building in terms of width and height and the detail.
Okay, that's good direction.
That's my motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that completes all of the items that are on our new business agenda. Are there any committee member comments on any other issues or items? How about staff? Do we have any staff comments?
No, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Okay, so our next meeting is our regularly scheduled first Wednesday of the month,
And that will be on
or first Monday of the month,
first Monday,
excuse me.
that will be October 7th, 2019.
Okay. We're adjourned.